What's up, everyone? Welcome to Room and Board. My name is Chris George, and welcome to a new series called not a series, it's just me talking about something. A New Hope. New Year, New Me.
It's a new year, new me.
And yes, I will be peppering in parts of that video that my good friend Cody sent me because it is my favorite thing in the entire world.
No.
And so today I want to talk about conventions. And I guess this could be a table talk, but I still have one of those outstanding, so it can't be. And plus, not everything needs a follow-up video. But the main purpose of this video is to challenge you this new year, this new you.
I've changed. I'm different.
To make your own board game convention. That's right, an entire convention. Now, let me explain. When I think of board game conventions, I think of Essen. I think of Gen Con. I think of all those large conventions filled to the brim with vendors furiously shouting at you to try their game and to buy their game and to buy, in fact, all of their stock so they can close up the shop early and go home to their family. Or family photo albums if their entire family has been kidnapped by bears. You never know. And these large conventions have always seemed like a lot of effort to me. Don't get me wrong, there's a fun energy created through the atmosphere of attending a con. And to be fair, I've never actually attended one of the bigger ones, so what the heck do I know? And a lot of that has to do with how cheap I naturally am. Frugal, my mother would say. And a lot of that has to do with past me not being as involved in the hobby as current me, which I would say is probably at an all-time high. But I've never really been interested in conventions because I've always been of the mind that they are about shopping and buying things at that higher price point simply because they are newer and not because they're necessarily better. See, I get most of my games on the secondhand market, or as gifts, or when I find the urge too great to resist and the beautiful little minis pull me in and I end up spending over $300 on one single thing. I'm looking at you, Onk. And so that aspect, the shopping aspect of going to a convention has never really appealed to me personally. I don't need to be sold to. I don't want to be sold to. Now, as someone who exists on YouTube and is committed to being as informed as possible so that I can be a resource for all of your gaming needs, well, that might be a big enough draw for me to be sold to or want to be sold to in the future. But as an average consumer who usually sticks to a budget, I've never really been interested in that part of the thing. But what I do like is the gaming portion of the convention. Trying out new games, playing with friends, devoting an entire weekend or 4-day period simply to enjoying an activity that so many of us enjoy. That is exciting to me. And so I went to my first convention a few years ago, a local convention in Niagara Falls, the Niagara Board Game Convention. It's only about an hour and a bit drive from Toronto. And that's all it was. It was just straight gaming. That's why they're often referred to as local conventions, because there's no real exhibitor hall. There's no people selling to you other than that one game table in the corner that nobody visits because it's too expensive. It's really just a big local meetup. A friend had told me about it and invited me along, but only on the express condition that I use his code so that he could get a $5 discount. And well, he hasn't really spoken to me since. But the organizers rented out numerous event rooms in a hotel in Niagara. They've been doing that for years, selling tickets to cover the cost of the rooms, and not too many tickets that it's over capacity. They set up a bunch of tables, everybody brings a bag of games, some people bring multiple bags, the organizers set up shelves, and you just leave all your games in the hall and grab anything that's on a shelf that you want to play. Obviously, if you want to play something that's in someone's bag, you don't just steal it, you ask around or you leave a note. And that's why you always leave a note. But you'll see people standing by tables holding up the box covers of games that they want to play, and you just go over to them, sit down, and play it. And for me, this is all I could ever want in a convention. I just want a long weekend filled with playing new and interesting games with some friends that I know and some that I haven't yet met. How charming is that sentence? Also, coincidentally, probably the best episode of The Simpsons, where Marge is in that version of Streetcar Named Desire, and Homer watches it and realizes and reflects on their relationship and how he's been mistreating her of late. So good. But for me, that's my goal. That's my idea of a great time. and we had a great time. And it's one that I've told all of my friends who weren't there that they should seriously consider doing in the future. Because obviously I need that $5 off my ticket, and maybe with some friends who'll stick around this time. See, the key is that you'll take $5 off my ticket, but then you refer a code out to other people, and then you'll get their $5. And so eventually everybody makes money. Everybody, it's like a trickle up situation. And so I was already primed to go the next January. It was going to be awesome. And then, of course, a little thing called COVID happened. You may have heard of it. That route expansion people keep talking about. Yes, that's a rehashing of Matt's joke from our cottage video, but I don't care. It was funny then, and I still think it's funny. And so all plans to go to the Niagara Board Game Convention were put on hold, and then on hold, as these things go. And they were planning on having one this year. It always happens in January 2022. It was all planned. The space had been booked out. People had bought tickets. And unfortunately, it's just been called off again because of capacity restrictions, and it just isn't feasible to happen. So they've had to cancel. And while I wasn't planning on going this year, because I'm now comfortable living in my own little YouTube square and don't ever need to leave my house again, and the thought of being around so many people, especially strangers, is one that I'm not quite ready to entertain at its fullest capacity yet. Especially based on being close to people who have weaker immune systems that I really don't want to murder yet. I'm still very disappointed for those people who were excited and were planning on attending and now can no longer do that, and now no longer have this thing to look forward to. Just another canceled event to add to the disappointments of the last few years. And it sucks. It's a bummer. It is an event worth looking forward to, which is why I'm proposing.
You're proposing? Oh, be still my heart.
No. I wasn't just.
You weren't proposing? You're not interested
Well,
in?
I mean,
What?
now that you bring it up,
Yes?
I'm not against it. You know what? Let's go for it, Maggie. Let's get hitched.
You'll have to give me a couple of days to think about it.
She was the one who brought it up.
I hear the telephone ringing.
Why would she even interrupt just to say no? Just add that to the list of disappointments too, I guess. Anyway, this is why I am suggesting that this year is the year to make your own convention. Sing your own special song. Make your own kind of convention, even if it's just a hatch underground. I think that's how that song goes. And I'm not suggesting that you break public guidelines for whatever place you reside and just gather. Who cares? Public health measures be damned. And obviously this is something you're going to have to take into consideration on a case-by-case basis. But the same group of friends who introduced me to the Niagara Board Game Convention decided that they would organize their own, comprised of a smaller group, but still a sizable one, by renting an Airbnb outside the city in a decently affordable area that can house around 15 to 20 people to create their own little board game getaway to replace the convention that they were all looking forward to. One of the friends who got the ball rolling, her name is Kadri, so obviously we're calling it KadriCon. And hopefully the indoor capacity restrictions will allow this to work out. It's still a few months out, but this is something that everybody who is involved in is looking forward to. So I'm here to hopefully give you that push to make your own KadriCon. No, make your own room and board con. Sorry, Kadri, I'm taking it over. It's my idea now. Depending where you live, there are large Airbnbs that might be within travel distance for you, that you might be able to rent out for around the same amount per person as it would cost you to rent a hotel room if you were going on a weekend board game local convention getaway. Now, obviously, to cheapy old me, this is still too expensive. You could just as easily host this in whoever's house is the largest. But by having it out of town, at a different location, it provides this opportunity to potentially recapture the magic, or some of the magic, that you can find at conventions. Staying up late, playing social deduction games, waking up early and grabbing a game with whoever also happens to share your insomnia, or horrible night terrors. Plus, booking out a larger space takes the burden off of that friend with the large house to host all of you cretins for the next 4 days. I know, some friend, I'd be completely fine with it. But having it out of town also gives you the chance to supplement this as a nice parents' weekend away for those of you who have children. And you can just leave them with an old can of tuna and a fork for the weekend. They'll amuse themselves, they're 4. Or with their grandparents, I guess. Whichever way you want to go. Because all you really need is the space with a few tables, some people to play games with, and the games. And let's face it, we all probably have decent sized collections or have some games that we could bring along to this communal meetup. I'm sure you do. I'm sure your friends do as well. Now, unfortunately, your entire collection may not fit in whatever vehicle you're using to transport yourselves and other people up to this weekend getaway, wherever it might be, but you will be able to bring a sizable amount of games. And so when choosing your games, what I would suggest is to focus on your goals, or the goals that you generally have when attending a convention. Or if you've never been to one, and hey, a lot of people haven't, what do you think your goals would be if you were to attend this sort of 4-day board gaming weekend somewhere that you don't live? Do you want to play primarily new games? Make a mandate that everybody has to bring games off of their shelves of shame, because we all got them. Make a Google document where everybody can add a list of the games that they would be interested in bringing up and be able to teach. And everyone else, you can put a little star beside the ones that you want people to bring up, or write in your own little rankings of preference. Or do you want to play games that just don't get to the table often? The games that you look forward to at these conventions that you seemingly can only play in this dedicated gaming space. That's great, because guess what? The best part about this convention that you're making yourself is that you control the games that you're bringing. So bring your old favorites, bring your forgotten gems that you're excited to replay. Bring something that might become a new favorite, like Cody.
My favorite TV show is Squid
New
Game.
Year, New Me.
What? New Year, New Me. What?
So we've got our space out of town. We've got people bringing games, a large selection of games to choose from, too many games to physically play in the amount of time designated for the weekend. But I gotta say, another part of this convention that was incredibly satisfying to me was the bring and buy room. Oh, it was glorious. A beautiful sight where people could bring their older games and set a price at 10 a.m. and then set a different price at 12 p.m. and then set a different price at 2 p.m. Usually getting cheaper and cheaper as the day went on to incentivize somebody purchasing it and so that they didn't have to take it home with them when they left the convention. I, of course, would wait until the 2 p.m. time slot. I mean, you know, I scoped it out at 10 a.m. If I hadn't been up so late playing Blood on the Clock Tower the night before, I may have been able to scope out a few more deals, but, you know, we make our choices. But as a fan of bargain hunting, and not to be confused with a bargain hunter fan, coincidentally, there were tens of copies of the game Bargain Hunter left at this convention by the end of the day. This was my favorite part, because I love deals, and I was able to pick up Terraforming Mars, which I didn't have a copy of, Trains, and Victorian Masterminds, all for a really decent price, and I've really enjoyed all 3 of those games. So it was fantastic, very successful part of the event, because there's something really fun about coming home from a convention with a new game, a memento of your experience. Maybe it's something that you played. And yeah, even though I went through that whole rant earlier that I'm not there for the shopping, I of course was there for the shopping when it felt like a good deal. And not the overpriced one at that board game table in the back corner of the room. And so another proposal to make this Room and Board Con, TM, KadriCon is dead, a success is to have everybody bring a game or two that they like, that is a good game, but that they're interested in trading or moving on from. Or even just lending out. Because let's face it, with this sort of setup, you're most likely all going to be friends with these people that you're going to share the weekend with, or at least friendly with them. They'll be friends of friends. They'll be the core that links it together, that's you. And then all the little tendrils that pull people in so that you can fill up the rooms and pay an all right price for this larger house. And so because it is this friendly atmosphere, it may not feel good to participate in a similar bring and buy sort of thing, selling your games to these people who you're friends with. And plus, you're there to play games. You're going to have limited space to bring games with you as it is, because you'll want to make sure that this event feels like this epic weekend that can last for a few days, that you have all these choices of things to do. And bringing up those 10 copies of Bargain Hunter that you didn't manage to sell in 2019 may not be the spirit at which this is intended. So bring one or bring two games that you wouldn't mind getting rid of, but that you also think are good games, because you want your friends to be able to walk away with a good game. And I have a couple of thoughts as to how to make sure it seems fair and for everybody to walk away happy. The first one being a sort of Yankee Swap or Mean Christmas event, where everybody brings a good game around the same set price point. You can go over the price point if you want, but not too much under, so everybody walks away with something around the same value. And then you draw out of a hat a random order of people who get to go to the pile and pick whichever game that they want. And this can be where it ends, or you can go further with that every subsequent pull can take a present from the pile, a game from the pile. You see my mind's in Christmas. Or they can steal a game from someone else. This should be dependent on how all your group will enjoy it, how everyone would feel about it if they got their exciting acquisition stolen. Or you can just simply have someone organize a math trade with everyone's games that are brought. Everybody writes down what they would be interested in, and then you try to pair everyone up with something that they would be interested in holding on to or acquiring or just taking home for the moment. But I think the main thing you need to make this sort of thing successful is that everybody takes home a box, something that's different from what they got, and that someone else around the group feels like it's a good game. Don't pawn off your junk on people. This isn't the time to bring games that you don't like. This is the time to bring games that you don't like but are still good. You still recognize other people might like, not the irredeemable messes that I know are in the bottom of your closet somewhere, or are certainly in mine. So that's item number 3. Those are my thoughts in how you can make your own board game convention and how you should do it, how you could do it. That's my blueprint. You find a location that's not too far away, that can house a decent amount of people, as many as you want or as many as are interested, at a price point that everybody can afford. Bring up a whole big selection of games curated to your group's goals, and then figure out how everybody can walk away with something new to put that sort of cherry on top of the perfect weekend. If that's something people would value, coming away with something new. If not, hey, who cares? Just go and have fun, right? If you needed permission, this is it. This might sound easy to accomplish. This might also sound very hard to accomplish. You may not have enough board gamers in your life to fill a large-scale house. Hey, that's cool too. You can still plan a board game weekend getaway with those you do know and with whom you play regularly. But also keep in mind when planning this, especially in the world that we're living in now, it should be a low stakes, no pressure situation. Because yeah, not everybody can afford the cost associated with going away. That's okay. Then have it in somebody's house at a later time. Not everybody wants to be around so many people. Even if it's people you know and you're able to put in those sort of safety measures to make everyone feel comfortable, that you feel are necessary as a screening process. And that's fine too. Just invite those who you trust. Not everybody can afford to take the time off for this 4-day extended weekend. I get that as well. Make it a 2-day weekend. Schedule it for Labor Day weekend down the line. Start planning it now. Give yourselves something to look forward to. Because I think, especially in these times, especially when things might get canceled down the line, depending on what happens with the world, if things escalate again and again, it's nice to have things to look forward to. And I think that these smaller board game meetup cons, Room and Board Con 2022, is a potentially something fun to look forward to. So that is my recommendation for 2022. That's why I wanted to start off the year talking about it, because we can always find these sorts of solutions and changes, and it's something that I'm looking forward to doing, and I wouldn't have considered doing without that group really organizing it and getting the ball rolling. But I am really appreciative of it and think it'll be a fun time. I know it'll be a fun time. So that's what I want for 2022, is for all of you to have that fun time as well. Anyway, that's it for me. Let me know what you think about this idea. I'm curious, have you done similar things like this before? It's not a particularly innovative idea, but it is a fun idea to talk about. And let me know what you would do. Let me know what games you would play. Let me know what you like about attending these sorts of conventions. If you attend large-scale conventions or more small local conventions, I'm interested in your convention going experience. And as always, I like to hear from you. So thanks for watching. My name's Chris George. I don't have a catchphrase. I wish I did. But I will say, the next time you see a bear in the wild, go up and give it a hug, because they're friendly. They really are. And I'm not just saying this because I now work PR for bears because they've kidnapped my entire family. I really mean it. There you go. I was playing games the other night and we were just singing this stupid song about a man who bears kidnapped his entire family, and he had to work PR for the bears, and I just thought that it was such a funny concept. And then it migrated to a tavern where there were all these different people singing songs about the various bears that have kidnapped members of their family. And then there was this one lone guy who was trying for 73 years to get the bears to kidnap him, and it never happened, and he was so sad and jealous of everyone else. So I guess the moral of that story is the grass is always greener when you're hanging out with bears, because they are lovely creatures, and really, please, I hope that I've done enough to get my family back. See you in the next one.
Oh my god. Oh, what? My favorite food is now biscotti. What? Ah, new year, new me. New year, new me. I hope it's a new you too. I don't want to recognize you either. We're both new. Everyone is new now.